Namaste and hi friends, it's Parvati here with Visionary Veda, bringing you your Vedic Astrology new moon report as well as a brief overview for September of 2024. In this report, I'm going to go over the energies at play for this new moon happening on September 2nd in the Nakshatra of Purva Phalguni. And I'm going to also touch on the full moon lunar eclipse that will be happening on September 17th or 18th, depending on where you are. Now, the lunar eclipse that will be happening a few weeks from now is not going to be a total. It is a partial lunar eclipse. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this new moon that is happening on September 2nd is a very interesting new moon. Before I go into the energies of this new moon in particular, sorry to be a tease, I want to talk about the other planets and where their placements are, so you get some sort of an understanding of how the other planetary influences are playing into the energy of this new moon. So we are going to start with the outer planets. We have Saturn retrograding in his own Multrikon sign of Aquarius. He will be in retrograde through the end of the month into October. Now, a lot of people have been asking me why it is that they are feeling stuck. A lot of people are feeling stuck, tired, unable to move ahead, unable to get things done. I'm hearing this from all sorts of friends and acquaintances from all sorts of corners. And the reason why is if we look at where Saturn is in the D9 chart or the Navamsha, which shows the deeper dignities of the planets, the deeper energies, the deeper phala, right? The deeper fruit of the energies of the planets. Saturn is in its sign of debilitation in the Navamsha. And this is why, for a lot of people, the feeling of stuckness, the feeling of heaviness is up for them right now. So don't get frustrated. Just be gentle with yourself. Take it easy. Saturn does not move quickly, especially when he's debilitated. He takes his sweet time. So give yourself time. Give yourself, some understanding, and know that when Saturn changes nakshatras and goes into Shata Bishak in October, I believe off the top of my head, I believe it's October 3rd, then the energy is going to shift. Shata Bishak is going to bring in a lot of healing energy. So we have that to look forward to. But I digress. Okay, so moving on, we have Rahu. Oh, and Saturn is aspecting the sign of Scorpio, as well as the sign of Leo, as well as the sign of Aries from where he's sitting. Okay, now moving ahead, we have Rahu in the sign of Pisces. He'll be there until next year, early next year. He's also aspecting Virgo. He's also aspecting Cancer and Scorpio. So Scorpio has many aspects on it, and it's had a lot of aspects on it for quite some time now, but I'll explain more what this is about. So then we have Jupiter in Taurus also aspecting Scorpio. 3 major heavy hitting planets aspecting the sign of Scorpio, which is showing transformation. Basically, all of this time has been showing a lot of changes. Now remember, Scorpio is the sign where the moon gets debilitated. And this new moon is going to be all about that moon, all about your mind. Okay, so we have Mars now, who is in the sign of Gemini. Mars is usually at odds with Gemini, with Mercury, the ruler of Gemini. Mars energy is very logical. Gemini, Mercury energy is very playful. It's not the most comfortable sign for the planet Mars. So the planet Mars gets really frustrated here. Gemini is communications as well as commerce. So there can be some issues with arguments with your friends, with your younger siblings, with your cousins, with family members, with neighbors, with subordinates. There can be a lot of arguments in general. So try and keep a cool head. It's kind of hard to do so with Mars in the sign of Gemini, but at least now you understand what's going on if people are going off at you and you're like, what's happening? Why is everybody just flipping out left and right? This could be one of the reasons contributing to that. But there's always more contribution to things like this. So Mars is in Gemini. We have Mercury in Cancer. Mercury's gone out of retrograde. So now on this new moon, though, he is on his way into Leo. But on this new moon, he is at that favorite point of Gandanta, between a water sign and a fire sign. The point of the karmic knots becoming untied. All right. So Mercury also is not in a strong position. You can see a lot of deception coming up, a lot of mercurial karmas or wound up energy coming undone. You might see lots of secrets and such coming out in the public, out on the world stage. Also in your personal life, you may not be able to get through to people because of this Mercury, or it's just no matter how hard you try, there's just misunderstandings. So just bear with that energy. It's especially difficult on this new moon because on top of that, the moon is dark. The moon signifies our mind. The light of the sun is obscuring it. Happens on every single new moon, or amavasya, as we call it in Vedic astrology. So the mind also gets disturbed easily. And then I'll talk about the sun and the moon together in the sidereal sign of Leo, but I just wanted to finish with a debilitated Venus in Virgo, and she will be almost exactly conjunct Ketu in Virgo when the new moon happens. So we have some kind of difficult planetary positions going on during this new moon. Now let's talk about the energies of the new moon in particular. So it's happening in Leo. It is going to be exactly opposite the sign of Aquarius, which is where Saturn is. So Saturn is opposing it. The karakas, or the significators of the sun in Leo especially, are the politicians. They are the rulers. In the old days, it used to be the kings. Now it's the people that are the rulers, the politicians, the corporate elite, all of the people that are in control. And Saturn is the karaka, or the significator of democracy. So these two are facing off. So there's going to be a lot of tension, if there isn't enough already, coming up during this new moon. Now, when you see something with Saturn and the sun in a birth chart, it indicates what's known in Vedic astrology as a Pitri dosha, or some sort of unsettling of our ancestors. And this new moon, or amavasya, is known as the Pitori Amavasya. So it is the new moon to venerate and just communicate and thank our ancestors. We have several pujas, or several rituals in the Vedic system that we use to help the ancestors feel at peace. It's called Pitri Shanti Puja, to help pacify and make sure the ancestors are fed, are thanked. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be who we are. We wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't even be. So everything that we are, everything, there's nothing new about us. It's all regurgitated from our ancestral lineage, to thank them for this life, for this body, for this intellect, for everything that comprises us. And connect with them and see how we can act in this life to help them feel at peace. If gratitude is all that we could do, then give them gratitude. But if there's any kind of action that we can take on their behalf to please them, to make them see that we are all right, they care about us, they want to see us thrive. So we would take such sort of actions, whether it be treating ourselves better, doing things for ourselves better, achieving something that you know that maybe they couldn't achieve in their lives. It's something to take on the behalf of the ancestors. And if you have a really strong Pitri dosh in your chart, or if you want to see if you have a Pitri dosh in your chart and see where these energies affect you in your personal chart, you can always sign up and email me at the email below for a reading at visionaryveda@gmail.com. So that is the energy of this new moon. But all of these other planets are playing into it. I want to bring up one of the outer planets. Usually I don't talk about Uranus, Neptune, Pluto because they are slower moving generational planets. But what's interesting is during this new moon, Uranus is getting ready. If not, he's already gone retrograde, or he's stationing retrograde. But on this new moon, he will be at 3 degrees of Taurus, which is the moon's exaltation point. And Uranus causes a lot of disruption in life, right? A lot of like changes that come from out of the blue. And his Shubhapati, or the ruler of the sign of Taurus, the exaltation lord, is the moon itself. So the moon is under a lot of duress. The moon is dark. The moon's nakshatra, or fixed star, is the star of Purva Phalguni. Now, Purva Phalguni, if you haven't seen my recent Bhadrapada videos where I talk about Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapada, it's very akin. It is opposite the Bhadrapadas. And instead of it being the funeral cot like the Bhadrapadas are, it is the marital cot. So there's some sort of consummation that wants to happen in this nakshatra, in the marriage bed. It's a very different energy than the funeral bed, but in some ways there's a similarity as well, right? So there's some consummation, there's some coming together, there's some union that wants to happen. The planetary ruler, according to the Vimshotri system of Purva Phalguni, is the planet Venus. And planet Venus is debilitated during this new moon. In fact, the planet Venus is going to be debilitated until the next full moon eclipse. And she's sitting with Ketu. And Ketu can be kind of crazy, like Uranus. It can be the wild card of the planets. It can bring things up that we weren't expecting. That's why Ketu is associated with things like terrorism and viruses and all of these strange things, because it is a seed from the past life that's suddenly germinating. So it's not the strongest. In fact, it's the weakest placement of Venus until the 18th, until the next full moon occurs. So be careful. You have Mars wanting to argue. You have Mercury not being able to communicate properly. You have Venus, your relationships. Something can break, something can happen. It's a time to take extreme caution in dealing with your affairs. Now, the fact that Uranus is in Taurus, it's going retrograde in Moon's exaltation nakshatra degree. It's a war. It's a war, not only a real war out there, but for your mind. Moon is dark. It's being eclipsed, not eclipsed, but it's being combusted by the sun. So it's completely devoid of any light. And then even in the next full moon, it's going to be eclipsed. So from now and the next couple weeks, see narratives changing, see people changing their views. It's a war on the mind. There are powers that want to persuade us to be one way or another. So the most important thing that one can do when the mind is under attack, when the moon is weak, the mind is weak, is to do mantra. Mantra protects the mind. And because this new moon is happening on a Monday, doing any kind of Shiva Mantra will help to protect the mind. Monday is the day of Shiva. So with this new moon happening on this day, it's called it's called Somavati Amavasya and Pitri Amavasya as well. So any kind of Shiva Mantra, or the Amavasya Tithi is the deity of this Tithi is the goddess Kali. And usually I don't evoke Kali because she's so fierce and so powerful. But when the mind and all the planets are weak is when we need the most protection. So any kind of Kali mantra or Kali bija is also good to recite during this new moon, or any time between this new moon and the next new moon, because we're going to have all these eclipses in between. So the mind is going to be under a lot of stress. So if you feel like you need protection, go to Ma Kali. And if you want to have a gentler form of protection, go to Lord Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, and one more mantra that you can chant if you do not wish to chant for Ma Kali or for Lord Krishna. And that is just the chant of evoking light. And you guys have heard me say this before, but I will repeat it for you again. So it goes like this. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. All right, thank you so much for your viewership. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The mantra, really quickly, what its meaning is, it's such a beautiful meaning. It's Asatoma Satgamaya, deliver us from the untruth to the truth. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, deliver us from ignorance into Tamasoma Jyotir, to light, from ignorance to light, from darkness to light. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, deliver us from death to immortality. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You got this, my friends. Enjoy the life. Take care of yourselves and one another. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye now.